Morning all, and welcome to this next Marvellous Designers tutorial. I've been a bit utilitarian lately, so I'm going to do something a little bit more fun today. I'm going to kind of make up a Harley Quinn type dress as I go along. So because we're going stylised, or going anime-ish, I'm going to use the stylised avatar. Just pop her in there. And then we're going to start off with the top, and we're going to create a kind of a corset thing, and we're going to do that with some internal lines, or rather some avatar lines. So the line tools are in the 3D window, and we want line avatar, and now we can start drawing out our panels. Now the first thing I want to do is just define kind of the underside of the boobs. So I'm just drawing lines around here until I get to there somewhere, yep, about there, and then we'll go over the top, just following this kind of underwear texture we've got there, and let's just do a little bit of adjustment there. Right, so now I go to edit avatar, edit line avatar. I'm going to right click on this line and add a curve point, and now I can push this curve point around to get what I want. And similarly this one, I'll select it, add a curve point, just going to bring that down a little bit. There we go, something like that. Okay, so now I want to define the panels around this corset piece. So we're going to go to the line avatar again. It's going to start from this point, move over to the middle, move down to about the hip line, move across a little, and then up to join underneath that cup, and then we'll do a similar job around the side, go up and back to join there. While I'm here, I'm just going to adjust that little line down here because that's not quite right. We'll add a curve point and just bring that up a little. Try to keep this nice and consistent and straight down the bottom, not completely straight, but I don't want there to be too many weird angles going up and down, up and down, up and down. Okay, so finally we'll do the back. So whoops, I'm in the wrong tool. There we go. We want the line avatar. I'll start the back middle, come down to about there and across. Whoops, that doesn't work. I'll start here instead. There we go, and then up the back and then back there. And of course this is now a little bit too weird, so we'll edit line, select the line, right click, add a curve point. I'm just going to bring that down a little bit. There we go. Otherwise not too bad. I'll bring that down a teeny bit more. No, sometimes this won't move very freely, or won't move how can I put it, small distances. I have a feeling it's something to do with the the geometry of the avatar. It's either got not enough or too much geometry in it, and it's snapping to vertices or points or lines or something. Okay, so once we've got that done, we can create our pattern pieces with the flatten tool. So if I point at one of these areas and click, it will go from blue to yellow. If they're not fully enclosed, you'll see it spilling out onto the avatar, and then you might need to go back and just adjust your points. Okay, let's do that one and that one, and actually now I say it, I realise that this isn't going to work because this cup here is not going to behave. I need to cut it up a little bit more so it keeps its shape. Sorry about that, I'm getting a bit premature in my old age. So if I come top to bottom on that, that's going to give me just about enough to keep it right. I could go left to right as well, but I think that's a bit over the top for now. So let's go back to the flatten tool and watch, it won't be as easy this time. There we go, so wait until it goes blue, whoops, and then click to go yellow. Takes a bit of fiddling, it does on my machine anyway. Come on, you can do it. Sometimes it helps to get a bit of an angle on it, to be a bit more kind of, yeah, off camera with it. Not off camera, but off center. There we go. Okay, so once you've got all of your pieces defined, you can press the enter button and they will create themselves. If you've got a piece in an awkward place, you might sometimes find it errors and it says, sorry, I can't do this. And then you just need to go in and adjust until it does work. Okay, now it also puts these in kind of an odd order, so I'm just going to rearrange them. I think that if I select it, whoops, is the back, so we'll pop that over there. That looks like the side. Yes, that's the very front panel. That's on this side, and that's on that side. There we go. Now you'll see that in these cut pieces, they don't look like they match up, but basically they match up, you know, so that the pattern works. If I'd have left this with just one piece, it wouldn't be quite so right. It's going to, you know, really have a bit of trouble finding its way. Right, so I'm just going to click on the edit sewing tool and have a look in, and yes, they're all sewed together. I have had occasions where they don't, so I like to check. So I'm just going to select all these, right click and symmetric pattern with sewing and pop it just offside there, and then click on a panel, whoops, with the select move tool and just move that up and in so it's somewhere about right. I'll give it a bit of space so that I can now use the segment sewing tool in the 3D view and get a good look at the seams I'm sewing. There we go. Okay, so that is essentially setting up the patterns, and we've got some work to fit it. And if I just press the space button here, you'll see it has a tendency to pull away from the model and perhaps misshape a little bit. So in the next part we're going to just correct that. So I'll talk to you then. Okay, so first thing is this default material. If I go back to my material palette, where is that? It's here somewhere. Fabric. There we go. So this default material is not really suitable for this kind of garment. So I'm going to make or use a much stiffer material. I'm going to use the open file dialog so I can see the names, just find it easier personally. And I'm going to use the full grain leather there. There we go. So that kind of springs out and you know, is stiff as you would expect, you know, a garment like this to be. You can use a different one, you know, it's a personal choice, I guess. But my main issue here is I've got the you know, the pattern pulling away from the body, and to fix that I'm going to use the tack tool. Now that's up in the 3D window here. We just click on, whoops, not tack, we want tack on avatar. So I'm just going to click a point on the garment and it will turn invisible, and then I'm going to click what I think is the corresponding point on the actual avatar, and I'll do the same on the other side. When I press space, you'll see that tack then pulls it back into place. Similarly, around the side here, we're going to do the same thing. Where's my tack tool gone? There it is. I'm going to click there and there. And it's best to use this quite sparingly because the more you use and the more dense they become around the model, the more it will start to look like it's pulling around and doing crazy things. Okay, so that's probably as far as I'll go. Let me just adjust the avatar distance, the offset. If I double click on the avatar, then under offset or skin offset, I can lower this value to say down to 0.5. That might be a little too far. That's alright. Okay, so tack, where you need to, but as I say, don't go too mad, because you might find that nice curves and things start to get pulled out of place and things start to look a bit crazy. In terms of the back, I've got a little thing here. I've got this little bow down which I'm not overly happy with, and that's because I've got a curve point, or a curved line here, and I'm just going to remove that by selecting it and then deleting all the curve points, and that's flatten that up. And now down the bottom I also have a little bow here, and that's this piece. Basically, it's just not horizontal enough. While I do have a curved line here, none of all of these curves is essentially built up of a lot of curve points. So if I go into edit curvature, you'll see I've got a whole bunch of curve points here that I don't really want, because it makes life more difficult. So I can adjust them individually, but then as I do that, we're going to find that I don't do a very good job, and I've got lots of things to do, and it can take a little bit of time. I mean, that's actually not done all that bad a job. If I press space to let it sim, but I prefer to have these as just simplish curves. So I'm going to select these, right click and delete those points, and then with the curvature tool I'm just going to pop it back in, perhaps a little bit more than that. And then at this end I want it flatter, so I'll edit pattern. I'm just going to select this point and straighten up that handle so that I get a flatter sort of angle around the back. Okay, so that's essentially getting that about right. Next I'm going to put some straps and a neck piece in. I'm going to create a neck piece, and then I'm going to attach the straps to it. Kind of a halter, but not really quite. Okay, so I'll talk to you then. Okay, so let's create the neck piece first, and for that I'm just going to grab all these pieces and move them down a little bit to give myself some space, and then I'm going to draw out a rectangle just a little bit more, yeah, just about shoulder width basically. So to arrange this, I'm going to press Shift F to get my arrangement points up, and I'm going to click on the front of the neck there, and then press Shift F to turn it off, and then I'm going to move that backwards. Otherwise, when I sew it together and sim it, it's just going to go right through her neck. It's going to go through her neck anyway, but at that point, there's enough for it to work it out. So that might be a tad on the tight side. Let's have a look at the strain map, and I can see it's sort of orangey red. So let's make that a little larger. So pattern transform, select the point, double click the point in the middle so it scales on both sides, and then I'll press space, and now that's greeny colour, which is good. Excellent. It's got a bit of poke there, that's quite normal. It's just there's not enough geometry yet. Okay, I think design wise I want to make this a little deeper. There we go, something like that. Okay, so now I want a strap which is going to connect from the cups up to the neck. So let's do that, and I'm just going to draw out a bit. I'm going to estimate it a little bit. There we go. Just going to try and move that into position. Note that as I'm clicking here, I'm clicking expect to see my gizmo come up, but it's not because the I've got the strain map up. If you select on a piece when you put your strain map on, you'll see as you click a point on the garment, it gives you a percentage, and that's basically you know, how tight or loose it is. So the higher the number, the tighter it is. So I can see in there I've got some red and orange, so I've got 116. But down here, where I've got blues and greens, it's far closer to 100. And I think there are some actual points on here which are even less than that. Whoops, I actually moved that one there. I didn't want to do that. Just undo. Okay, so because of that functionality, I cannot get my gizmo up, so I need to be on Select Move tool, and I need to have the strain map turned off. So now I can grab it, whoops, not the whole thing, just that bit, and move it up into place. Right, so I'm going to attach this to one side, and we use the Freeso tool for that. So I'm going to click and click to select my first line, and then click and click to select my sew line, and similarly for the neck part we'll do that. There we go. So that's wrapping around quite nicely. You know, that's a design choice. If you want it down there, put it down there. If you don't, you know, move it. You can move it after that by just going into Edit Sewing, selecting the end of the seam you want to move, and just sliding it along the line. There we go. But I'm going to leave it there because that means I'm going to make it symmetrical on the other side. Okay, so if I select my strap, Control C, oops, not Control C, Control V, silly man. So press Escape to come out of that. Right click and Symmetric Pattern with Sewing, and place it. I'm going to need to sew to the top because it's not a symmetrical piece, and we'll do that now. There we go. Press space and that should do the job. There we are. Okay, so that's that part done. When we come back, I think I'm going to start on the skirt piece, and I'm going to leave sort of texturing and, you know, putting colours and things on till last. Okay, so I shall talk to you then. Next then, I want a band around the waist that I can attach the skirt to, because I don't want to attach the skirt to the corset piece because it's too complicated. There's too many things that can go pear-shaped. So let me select half of the bottom here, and I can see that that's what, 307.6. So I'm going to create a piece, a rectangle, which is 307 point, whoops, missed my full stop there, 0.6 wide, and I think I'm going to go 50 deep and click OK. Now I can wrap this around the model to help with Shift F to get my arrangement points up. I'm going to select the side one and Shift F again. Let's just move this down. So we're going to use our end-to-end sewing. So I'm going to start here, which is the front, and then I'm going to, whoops, I've done it again, I always do it. So select your M seams first, and then press enter, and then 1, 2, 3 end seams, and enter. And you should see that that sews up nicely. And now, with a bit of luck, I can right click on here and unfold with symmetric editing, and that should fill in the other side. Then if I pull that away and press Shift F, I can arrange it around the front and just bring that down a little bit. Just check my seams, that's good. Now with the segment sew, I can go seal the back up, just press Shift F to get rid of those points, and press space. And now I have a nice piece that I can sew some bits and bobs onto. It started to go a little billowy, and that's because it's using the same fabric as before. So I'm going to create a new fabric now and just drag and drop that onto there, and you'll see it sort of loosens up a bit. Might be a little big in places, So I'm going to just select it, double click in the middle, and then just narrow it down just a little bit. Basically I just want to narrow it down until it is about right, so I do a small amount at a time. There we go. Okay, so we're going to create a layered skirt, so multiple skirts here. So we're going to start with the bottom one, and for that I'm going to want a rough idea of how big this line is. So if I select one side because it's symmetric, we'll see the 3D line length, the 2D line length is 347. Let me just select both sides. Yeah, it still thinks it's 347. Okay, I don't need this symmetric now, so I'm going to right click and remove linked editing, and now I'm going to make my life slightly easier. There we go. So it's 695, is that? 695.1. So we're going to create an ellipse and click in the viewport, and then the circumference will be 695.1. And then click OK. And then with our edit pattern tool, we're going to double click on that ledge and offset as pattern outline. Make sure that create internal line is on and give it some distance. Let's try 350. That looks a bit big. Let's try 300 and OK. So now I can double click on this internal line, right click and convert to whole. And let's just rotate this around a little and put it up into place somewhere about right anyway. There we go. Okay, so to sew this up easily, I'm going to divide the bottom of this piece into 4 instead of 2. So I'll just right click on here, split, uniform number 2, and the same on this side. Right click, split, uniform split 2. Okay, so now I just need to know the front and the back. So this is going to be the front. It's going to be ever so easy if I do it with the 3D pattern tools. So I'll use the 3D segment sewing and sew the front up. Oops. You have to be careful with the 3D ones. If you don't click close enough to the line, it won't take. So just be very careful of that. Come around to the back. Oh, I've got only a teeny tiny bit to see here. That one to that one. There we go. And that one to that one. There. Okay, so this shouldn't cause too much problems. It's just going to drape down and start to, form some folds and such like. Might need to just fold out the bottom a bit. I often find with a skirt like this that if you double click on the outside line, oops, there we go, and turn seam taping on, you'll find that that bottom flattens out much better and stays straight, doesn't kink up and do crazy things. Okay, so that's the first one. So when we come back, we're going to add layers of skirts and we're going to change some properties on the materials to make them behave a little differently. Okay, so I will talk to you then. Okay, so I want to add more skirts to this, and to do that I can copy this, but I want to attach it to a different area. If I attach it to these, I'm going to have lots of polygons coming together and sort of jostling for position. So what I like to do is just give a little offset here. So if I select each of these and then right click, I can offset as internal line. I only want as kind of a small step, really, sort of 2, 3, 4 millimeters, but I'm going to do one for each skirt, and I'm going to do 4 in total. So we'll have an extra 3 lines. Now unfortunately it doesn't preserve the splits, so I'll just have to put those back in again. So let me select, oh come on, it's because I'm too far away, it doesn't know what I'm pointing at. Split, this time we're going to go into 4. Okay, I would like to think you could do this you know more than one line at a time, but it doesn't seem to be the case. So let's do it for this one, and finally for this one, uniform and 4. There we go. Okay, so now to keep these straight and to understand, you know, what's going on and what layer it is, that's for the simulation, not for, you know, me personally. I'm going to need to use layers on this. So first of all, I'm going to just move this out of the way and then copy and paste it and pop it back into place. And now I can sew it back up again. And if I look at the original pattern and go to edit sewing, I can see that this front piece goes to this middle one and this back piece goes to the outside, so I can do the same here. So segment sewing, that one goes, oops, let me zoom in, goes there, and that one will go, let me get it on the same line there. And then similarly this side will do the same. That one will go there. And that one, so if I zoom in a bit more, will go there. There we go. Okay, so this one I need to be on a different layer. Let me go to the properties tool. There we go. So I'm going to put this on layer 1. I'm going to grab it and move it into place somewhere around there. I don't mind that it's a little up. That's going to kind of help it a little bit, really. So just move it forward and then press space, and that should take a moment, but it should sort itself out. I seem to have some sort of sewing issue here. I may have reversed one of my seams, and by may I mean probably have. So let me press space to turn the sim off and Control Z. Let me move this out a bit. That looks alright. Perhaps it's the underlying one that's wrong. No, that's alright as well. Okay, I'm going to deactivate this one and let the bottom one sim in. No, that is wrong. It's reversed. I can see it's reversed now. Okay, so it happens. Go to edit sewing. It's the blue seam. So it's this one. So right click and reverse. And you should see that straighten out. That's good. Okay, so this is my top skirt at the moment. So I'm just going to move that up and deactivate it. And then reactivate the bottom one, because that's going to be it's going to need to sim into place first. There we go, and press space, that will go in, and then I'll activate the top one, and then that will fiddle about a bit and then settle itself down. And you'll notice that now that I'm sort of layering the skirts over the top of each other, we're getting a bit of extra volume, and that's great because, you know, I don't want a straight down skirt. I want something that's got a bit of volume to it. Do excuse me. Okay, so another trick is to copy and paste your pattern piece in exactly the same place as the original, and that will put it in 3D space in exactly the same spot, and then, you know, we can move it to one side and start sewing it up. So one tip to get your segment sewing right is to think about the point where you're pointing. So this point, this little cross bit here, is going to be at the back of the pattern. So it's going to be either side of this particular line here. So I need that cross to be on this side, and now that should be straight. And similarly on the front, if I click here, this is going to be in the front of the pattern, and that's in the middle here. So if I click there, that should be spot on. So if I do the same at the other side, so I need to have the cross at the on the right there. There we go. And this one would need to be towards the left. And if I now set my pattern layer to above the one below it, I'm going to move it up to give it a little bit of help, and then press space, and something's not right. Or it's having more trouble than I wanted. So I've just pressed Ctrl Z to move that out of the way. So I may need to move this up. Basically the problem is I'm moving the wrong one up. So let me select the right one. See, when I'm selecting it, it's just picking the one below it, which is annoying. See if I can get an angle. There we go, got a nice angle where it doesn't. So I'll move that up and press space, and there we go, much better. Okay, so these are essentially my underskirts. So we're going to create an overskirt, and we're going to do something a little bit different with it. Not much different. We're going to sort of change our parameters, and we're going to change our shape to have something different happen. So that's the lower ones. When we come back, we're going to do an upper skirt. So I will talk to you then. Okay then, so we want an upper skirt, and for that I'm just going to grab these and move them out of the way a little bit, and then I'm going to grab this last one we did and copy and paste it. Again, exactly the same, except this time I'm going to move that over. We're going to create a new material for it. I'm going to call it skirt upper for now. Whoops, my fingers are in the wrong place. There we go. And we'll give it a different material property. So currently it seems to be on full trim, but it's not. I know it's not. Better not be. It thinks it is, but it's not. And we're going to change this to a kind of heavier cotton, I think. So let's try a gabardine. There we go. Now we can sew it up. So again, segment sewing, we'll start at the back at this side, so it needs to be across near the edge, and then the front, and the cross needs to be near the middle, and the back, and the front. There we go. It needs to have its own layer, of course, so let's get on the layer. Oops, I'm on the wrong tool, on the wrong side. So this one wants to be layer 3. I want to grab that and pull that upwards. Now the idea of this is that this is going to form a slightly sort of heavier and a slightly different shape to everything else. So once I press space, have I done it again? Yes, I've done it again, haven't I? I've moved the wrong one. Right, let's try this from an angle. I need an angle where it's not going to pick the one below it. Oh, come on, this is going to be far more difficult than it needs to be. There we go. I'll just pull that up a little bit and then press space. There we go, much better. Now I can experiment with my materials here to, you know, get a different look. So, whoops, that's not pulling down, I'm not grabbing the edge, that's why. I'm grabbing somewhere near the middle. There we go. Okay, so back to the upper skirt, and we will select a different one. And I think I want something a bit more stiff. I think there is like a suede somewhere. Leather lambskin, let's try that one. And I'm not entirely sure I've even applied it. There we go, now it's applied. This is where colour coding these things can be, you know, give you a bit of chance. Okay, I don't think that's different enough. So I want something much stiffer. So let's go down to fusible rigid, and this one is likely to be too rough or too much. I mean, once it's got an underlying shape and you've simmed it once, you might have to actually kind of pull it around to get a different shape over the top. There we go. Now it's starting to have some differences. Excellent. Just be a little bit more gentle than I am, you know, was pulling it, because, you know, you can start off a chain reaction whereby it will never stop simming. It will never stop settling, or it will seem that way at least. Right, just going to pull the front out a little bit, I think. Pull that to one side. Don't want it sort of crossing the, you know, the symmetry line, as it were. There we go. Now we have our fully layered skirt, and I can start to look at, you know, dealing with colours and such like. So what are we doing? What am I going to do? Okay, well, I want a dark sort of leathery top piece and leathery top skirt, and then I want some kind of nylon, you know, net kind of see-through at the bottom in the underskirts. So yeah, we'll have a go at that next. Okay, so let me just name these at the moment and give me an idea of what's going on. So if I go into my substances, I should be able to find some sort of this tutorial leather natural worn. So I'm going to drag and drop that onto the top. So now I get this sort of brownish leather, which is not really what I'm after. So I'll select the leather, come down, and we want, whoops, not channels, properties. So I've got a sort of primary colour here, which I'm going to drop a little bit to have a darker or a deeper black. Don't want it to be completely black because that has a tendency to mess with PBR. And if I go further down, I've got some leather colours, and I want these to be similarly grey. So I'm going to keep roughly the same kind of level, but just pull them back to take the actual colour out. There we go. Now we've got a leather. I see that that doesn't get stretched to this bit, and I want it to, so I'm going to drag and drop that onto there. It's going to change the material property. But providing it holds up under the sim, I'm happy with that. There we go. Right, so for the skirt lower, I want to do exactly the same, but that's going to be slightly difficult. So let's drag and drop that on there and see how close I can get it. There we go. Actually, yeah, this is silly. If I put this one on the skirt for now, you'll see it goes nuts, which is the sort of thing you can expect. Then I'll delete unused, and I'm just going to create a copy of this. Copy, where's copy? There it is. There was everything on that now. Let me undo. I've obviously deleted something I didn't need to do. That appears to be on all my skirts, which I definitely don't want. So let's pop those back. Now this one should be unused, so I'll delete it. There we go. And then we'll copy a new version of this. Just use the copy button up here. And now I can change the sim property on this to back to our, what do we use? Leather lambskin. There we go. And when I resim that, when it catches up with me, actually I need to apply it to there first. Come on, John, sort your life out. You'll see that, you know, that works. And now I've matched the two leathers. I don't have to guess what my you know, colour values and so on and so forth are. Okay, so for these underlying ones, I'm going to grab them and sorry, I don't need to grab them, I just need to go there. So for the opacity, I'm going to turn that down to somewhere around 40%, 40 to 50, somewhere around there. And now you can see that they're slightly transparent. I'm going to change the colour to near black, because that's what I want, or perhaps red. Red might be suitable here. There we go. And then we'll zoom out and have a look around. Okay, so that's our basic colouring. I'm going to create some variants of these and sort of make it look a bit more interesting. And I'm going to also, I think I'm going to add a couple of trim pieces just for fun. A little bit of kind of ruffle around the waist. Yeah. So we'll have a go at that next. Okay, so I see I've got a bit mixed up with my skirts here, so let me just rename this to lower. This is back to top, and this is, whoops, skirt upper. Okay, so what I want is a variation on this one, so I'm going to copy this top and we'll call it top red. So on this one we're going to go to our custom properties and find the colour and pick a sort of dullish red, nothing too saturated. There we go. And now I want this on basically a couple of panels. So if I put it on the front, that would be very good. Yeah, let's put it on the side. So that's that one there and that one there, and because this has got the same material properties, you know, simulation properties, it should sim just as well as it did previously. There we go. And of course you can, you know, do that wherever you want. I could, you know, try to get the checker pattern kind of thing going. I could put it on those two bits, but I think that would look a bit daft really, so I'm not going to do that. Okay, so I also said I wanted to put a bit of trim around the bottom here, so that's relatively straightforward. What I need is a pattern, so we want a rectangle, and because I want it ruffled, I want it longer than this piece here, so I'm just going to make that a little bit longer. I want a new property on it, or a new sim property. So we'll call that fabric 1 for the moment and pop that on there. And then this one, I'm just going to use the free sew tool to sew that perhaps to the top here. There we go. Now if I select my piece in 3D, right click, and let's try superimpose over. There we go, it goes into place. Now I need the sim property to be higher than the piece below it, so I'm keeping it away from the skirt to give it a bit of chance to, you know, not interfere with it too much. Right, so with that done, press space, and now I've got a little ruffle around here. It's going to be maybe a little bit stiff to start with, and that's likely because my point distance is not very dense at the moment. So actually I'm just going to make this a little larger and then let it sim again. See, it's pulling upwards, which I don't want, so I'll use this fold arrangement tool here to click on the seam. Now at this point in time it's going to select a bit randomly. It's selecting the seams from the bodice part, so I'm just going to select all of that, and then with the tool here I'll right click and hide the pattern, and now my fold tool should behave itself a little bit better. Oops, that's not what I want. I want the fold tool. There we go. No, it's still doing it. So we just need to go down in the amount of things we're hiding now. So let's hide that pattern. Come on, select it. Helps if you've got the select tool on. There we go. Hide. Now I can use the fold tool, he said unconfidently, to fold that downwards. And let's right click and show all, and then press space, and that should now stay a little bit better. There we go. I think it might be a little thin perhaps. Sometimes if it's too thin, if there's not enough geometry, it will try and flip up. So if I give it a bit of width or a bit more depth, its weight is going to help it pull down. And if I grab the whole thing and take it down to 10, which will give it more geometry, it should start behaving even better. And press space. There we go. That looks better. You'll see as it's getting nearer that skirt, and that's why I tried to keep it away. It's starting to interfere now, and that's because the top skirt layer is somewhere around 5. So if I pop this at 6 now, it's going to come out, start to behave a bit better. I've got a little bit of poke there. That's likely a particle distance issue, and the fact that I've got this real close to the really close to the what am I trying to say, avatar, that's the word. Okay, so that's a little bit of fun, a little bit of thing around the thing, and a bit of different colour. Next we're going to put some other sort of hard details on it, nothing too extensive. We're just going to use buttons to add some studs and bits and bobs. Okay, so I'll okay, so I want to have a look at how to put some studs on this now. So we can use buttons for that. So on the button tool we can select button, and over in our property window here, or tool window, we can switch to button. So first of all I want to change the button, and we can do that here. I've got a little library of buttons, and somewhere around here I've got like a rounded stud. So I'm going to pop that somewhere in the center of this neck piece, and then go to the select move button, and just move that in a little bit from the edge, and then I'm going to Control C and Control V, and with Shift held down I'm going to move horizontally, and then right click, and now I can control how far away they are and how many studs I'm going to put there. It really helps here if you can see the whole thing, so I'm just going to cancel that and move out. So Shift, move along, right click, and then I'm going to increase my buttons till the end. That one's a little bit differently set to this one, so now I'm just going to change my interval until that comes right. And there you go, we have some studs around the neck. If we click on the default button, we can come to material here. We've got some material properties, and we can do some changes here. So I want this to be metal, and we'll just make that let's give it a bluish grey, perhaps a bit lighter than that. There we go, somewhere around there. And there we've got our studded collar. It's not the best in the world. These are a little big perhaps, so you can adjust that on the button property. So you have a width, a thickness, and a weight. Weight is, you know, how it will fit the clothes. I'm not really worried about that at the moment, but I'm just going to make them a teeny bit smaller so they don't look quite so mad. Okay, and of course you can put those anywhere you like. Yeah, we can even put some kind of straps across here and you know, attach them with buttons. Okay, so what else do I want to do? Well, let's do that just for fun. So first of all, I'm going to place the buttons. So let's go to the button tool, button, and I want perhaps one there. It's having a think about something, I'm not sure what it is. There we go, just thinking about how to put it on there. Now this button, if I go to the button editor, you might want to be a different size. Let's move that over a little bit. So we can add a new button, and perhaps we'll have this as the same stud but standard size. There we go. Now if I go and find that on the pattern, I can select it, right click and copy, right click and paste, and then if I just move it down a bit with Shift held down, I'm going to put 3 in here. There we go. So this one is a little out of line because my pattern is deforming a little bit, so I'm just going to move it a little bit over until it looks about right. There we go. Now we can duplicate these now to our symmetric pattern. So if I duplicate to symmetric pattern, you'll see they appear on the other one in what you might think is the right place, but it doesn't look like it. Oh, that's having a proper fit now. Okay. When I get a button that doesn't really work very well, I find it best to kind of pull it out and straighten it up and put it back almost in the right place, and then let it have a go. There we go. Now it's behaving itself a little bit better at least. Okay, so now I essentially want a piece which will go between these. So if I draw out a little strap here and move that up into place, I'm going to try it on the middle one first because that at least looks like it might be vaguely the right size. There we go. Now what I need for these is buttonholes. So if we go to the button tools again and buttonhole, I can put one on one side and one on the other side. We can still move these around and change them. They're a bit big, so I now need to go to the buttonhole section and select that, and we should have a size here. We've got 23mm. I'm going to take that down to 20. That will make them a little smaller, and then we're just going to move those around a little bit. There we go, something like that. Now if I just move this away, we can go to the fasten tool. So the fasten tool, if I click the button, click the hole, click the button, click the hole, you'll see they snap to it and lock, and I can press space to sim it, and that will, you know, essentially add it to our piece. I want this to be perhaps the red leather. Whoops, I didn't mean to add a buttonhole there. I meant to go to fabrics. Where's fabrics? There it is. So let's pop that on there. And now I can perhaps adjust my strap piece to look a bit nicer. What I'm going to do is use the smooth curve tool. I'm just going to eyeball it. Just going to put a curve at each end. There we go. You can make it longer and it will droop. You can make it, you know, shorter and it will tighten up. You can do all sorts of things. Okay, so I'm just going to repeat that between things, and then we'll come back and have a look, see if there's anything else to do. So I will talk to you then. Okay, so I need to change my particle distance, and I prefer to have particle distance the same on everything, because where patterns come together and sew, if the pattern distance, the particle distance is different, you tend to get lots of little spikes. So I'm going to be brave and just set everything currently to 15. I know I've got some already smaller than that, but I'm going to hope for the best. So this is going to think about it for a minute or two, or a moment or two, and then we can sim it and see what goes on. And what I'm mainly trying to fix at this point in time is that little bit of poke through there, which has just gone away. Okay, so you may want to go further if you're taking this out, or you want something to look really smooth, but I think that's okay. Right, next then I'm just gonna, this is purely visual, I'm going to switch to thick textured surface, because that's going to cause the MD renderer to render both sides of the cloth and add thickness to it. And for that I want to change my top to have a little bit more thickness. So if I select the top and then come down to the bottom, you'll see we've got a thickness property, and currently it's 0.5 millimeters. I'm going to switch that to 2, which is going to add a bit of extra, and as you can see, with that extra added, it's kind of exaggerating some of the seams, which is nice. So I'll do the same for the top red, because otherwise it would be unfair. And there we go. Right, so what else do we want to do? Well, I'm not actually happy with how shiny everything is, so let's start with the top red. I'm going to go to our custom properties and come down to roughness, and that's at 0.3, which is quite low. And whoops, I think this dial is set up wrong. Let's make it 0.5, and now it's perhaps a little too dull. 0.4, that's better than the other one, but I think maybe it's still too shiny. It's hard to tell really. There we go, now we're getting a little bit more of a, spread out reflection. And I'll do the same for the top. So custom properties down to roughness, 0.45 did I say, and the skirt, we want that to be the same, so custom properties 0.45. There we go. that actually take the 4.5? No, it doesn't take the 4.5. 0.4 it is then. Oh dear. Let's see with this one. Yep, 0.4. It'll have to do. Okay, so that's not bad. Let's draw back, have a look. I think my underskirt needs to be darker, so we're going to go somewhere near black. There we go. Actually, we could sort of go the other way and use kind of a law of contrast and go white. There we go. Okay, so I think, you know, that's more or less done for me. You know, you can use, you know, the techniques in this to do all sorts of things. You know, we've added buttons, we've added studs. You could put them almost anywhere you want. You could go really mad with it. I'm trying to be a little bit restrained. But yeah, I hope you found that useful. I hope you found it enjoyable. If you have any questions, ask me in the comments, and thank you for all your support. So I'll talk to you again soon.